I canceled my mother-in-law's birthday dinner after they left me out. Revenge was quiet, but brutal. I wasn't snooping. I was just looking for the file my husband asked me to find. But there it was, a spreadsheet, open, highlighted, bold. Mom's 65th birthday, final guest list. My eyes skimmed past the names, some familiar, some not. But mine, not there, not once, not even a placeholder, and neither was my daughter's. I remember blinking, once, slowly, then twice. No breath caught in my throat. No scream, just a silence so sharp I could hear the hum of the refrigerator from 2 rooms away. I didn't scroll up, I didn't scroll down, I didn't need to, because even in the tiniest corner of that screen, I had already been erased. Cassie noticed something was off the next morning. She leaned on the break room counter, coffee in hand, watching me fumble with a granola bar wrapper like it was quantum physics. "All right," she said. "Either your husband finally turned into a dog or something worse happened." I didn't answer right away, just stared at the plastic wrap crumpled in my palm. Then I said it, soft, almost unsure if it was even real. I saw the guest list for his mom's birthday dinner. Cassie raised an eyebrow. "Okay. And?" My name wasn't on it. I hesitated. Neither was Lily's. The way her face changed, it wasn't surprise. It was anger, the kind a real friend feels for you when you're too numb to feel it yourself. "Wait, what?" I nodded slowly. "They're hosting it at a vineyard. Private room, full menu picked, custom wine glasses, and not even a whisper about me or our daughter." Cassie set her cup down harder than necessary. "Rachel, are you sure it wasn't a mistake?" I looked at her then, and she saw it in my face. No mistake, no oversight. This was deliberate, planned, polished. She exhaled through her teeth. "That's some cold-blooded shot." But here's the thing. I didn't cry, didn't call my husband in a fury, didn't send a text to his mother demanding answers. Instead, I closed the laptop, stood up, and folded the blanket on the couch like it was just another Tuesday night, because I've learned something over the years. When people show you they can leave you out, you don't chase after them. You step aside, you get quiet, and you let them feel the weight of your absence. I've always been the type to take the high road, not because I'm saintly, but because I used to believe dignity was enough. But dignity doesn't work when people don't feel shame. And that night, staring at that guest list, I realized something cruel and simple. I wasn't part of their plan, not by accident, but by design. So I made a plan of my own, not loud, not vengeful, not even personal, just quiet, strategic, precise. I canceled my mother-in-law's birthday dinner after they left me out. They didn't even know it yet. But the silence was already beginning, because if they could erase me, I could erase the evening they thought would celebrate her. They erased me, so I'll let them feel the silence. Some betrayals hit like a storm, loud, sudden, impossible to ignore. But others, they come like a slow leak, quiet, invisible, until you're standing in a flood, wondering how it got that deep. Mine started long before that guest list. Barbara, my mother-in-law, was always warm, in public. She had that polished charm that made people lean in when she spoke. Always the hostess, always composed, always smiling just enough to seem gracious. But never too wide, wouldn't want to wrinkle the Botox. At first, I thought she just wasn't very expressive. Or maybe she was shy. Maybe she was guarded. But over time, the patterns showed up like bruises in the light. Cassie once told me, "You know someone's fake when they compliment the room, but never the person in it." Barbara was that kind of woman. She'd walk into our home, look around and say, "Oh, you're still using this couch? My Lindsay has one just like it, but cream velvet, stunning." Or when I brought her a dessert I spent hours baking. She smiled with her wine glass tilted and said, "It's sweet, maybe a little too sweet. But I'm sure Daniel loves it. He's not picky, always soft, always dressed in pearls and pale pink, but her words? They left paper cuts, tiny, bleeding, easy to dismiss. I used to brush it off, tell myself I was being sensitive. Daniel would say, "She means well. That's just her tone." And I'd nod, pretending I didn't notice how that tone changed completely when Lindsay walked in. Lindsay, she's the golden girl, younger, thinner, always bouncing into rooms like her life was a party she got to host. She calls Barbara Babs like they're best friends, brings her personalized gifts, brunches with her once a week, and Barbara eats it up, calls her my second daughter, even though I married her son 5 years earlier. At family dinners, I sat across from Barbara, answering polite questions with careful restraint. "How's work, Rachel?" she'd ask, glancing at her phone. Before I could reply, she'd cut to Lindsay. "Tell us about your new project, that influencer thing. What's it called?" And suddenly, I was background noise. Furniture. One Christmas, I spent 4 hours wrapping thoughtful gifts for everyone. Matching ribbon, handwritten tags, little trinkets that meant something. When Barbara opened mine, she smiled, said, "Oh, that's sweet," then turned to Lindsay's bag of fancy bath products and gasped, "You always know exactly what I need. You're so thoughtful." Daniel looked at me. He saw it. But he said nothing, just sipped his drink, like it would wash down the guilt. But the worst moment? It didn't even happen to me. It happened to my daughter. Lily was 6 at the time, wide-eyed, excited to show Grandma the necklace she made out of beads and yarn. Barbara smiled politely, said, "Oh, that's cute," then turned and gushed over the dress Lindsay's daughter was wearing. Later that night, Lily whispered to me, "Why does Grandma always talk nicer to them?" And I didn't know what to say. Because how do you explain favoritism to a child still learning how to spell? I started pulling back after that, not in a dramatic way, just quieter, more observant. I stopped forcing conversations, stopped chasing warmth that clearly had a direction, and it wasn't toward me. Daniel noticed. He asked once, "Did something happen with Mom? You've been distant." I shrugged. "No, I'm just tired of trying so hard." He sighed. "She's always been like that. It's not personal." But it was personal. And the problem wasn't just her. It was him too, his refusal to see, to step in, to protect the woman he claimed to love. The silence between Barbara and me became tradition. At birthdays, she kissed everyone's cheek but mine. At barbecues, she offered wine refills to everyone, except me. And every time, Daniel blinked like it wasn't happening right in front of him. So when I saw that guest list, when I saw our names missing, it wasn't a surprise. It was a confirmation, a slow-burning truth that had finally reached its flame point. You know what's funny? People think betrayal happens in loud moments, but sometimes it's the silence that cuts deepest, and I had spent years sitting quietly in rooms that pretended I wasn't there. But this time, I wouldn't stay quiet. This time, I wouldn't just swallow the ache and play gracious. This time, the silence would be mine, and it would speak louder than they ever expected. She never had to say, "I didn't belong." She just made sure I felt it. Some betrayals whisper. Others scream, but the cruelest ones come smiling in a group photo sent from a friend who had no idea she just lit the match. It was Cassie. Of course it was Cassie. She texted me around 9:30 that night, just as I was finishing Lily's bedtime story. No message, just a photo. Everyone smiling, toasting, laughing under dim lights and chandeliers. The caption read, "Didn't know you weren't going. Thought you'd be sitting next to Daniel." I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't believe it, but because something inside me finally cracked. Daniel was there, sitting beside Lindsay, laughing at something Marcus was saying. Even Barbara had that tight smile, the one she always reserved for when she thought she'd won. The photo was beautiful. Perfect. And I was completely, deliberately cut out. It wasn't a scheduling error. It wasn't an oversight. It was a performance. And I was written out of the script. When Daniel came home, I didn't say anything. I just sat in bed, reading. The kind of reading where you're not even turning the pages anymore. He walked in, loosened his tie, looked surprised to see the lights still on. "I didn't think you'd wait up," he said casually, like we were just two co-workers passing in a hallway. I glanced at the clock. "It's only 10. He sat down at the edge of the bed, kicked off his shoes. "They moved it up an hour last minute. Mom said she texted you. Guess it didn't go through." I didn't respond, because there was no text. No call, no accident, just a well-practiced lie delivered with the ease of someone used to getting away with it. The next morning, I sent the photo to Cassie with just one line. "You have no idea what you just confirmed." She called me immediately. Her voice was tense. "Rach, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean—" I cut her off. "No, you did the right thing. Because now I had something I didn't before. Proof, and with proof comes power." That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, replaying every memory, every innocent moment that now made sense in a way it hadn't before. The time Barbara accidentally sent a group invite to everyone but me. The Thanksgiving when my name tag was missing, and she said, "Oh, I didn't know you'd be joining us this year." The subtle shuffles at dinner tables, the private chats between her and Lindsay. The way Daniel would brush it off, every time, as coincidence. But this wasn't coincidence. This was choreography. A few days later, Janine, Daniel's cousin, pulled me aside at a baby shower. She's never been loud, but she notices everything. She lowered her voice and said, "I thought you and Lily were out of town last week. That's what Barbara told everyone." I blinked. "She told people that?" Janine nodded. "She said you were visiting your family, that you insisted on missing the dinner." My hands went cold. That wasn't just exclusion. That was a narrative. They weren't just cutting me out. They were rewriting the story so I looked like the one who walked away. Later that night, I told Cassie. She let out a slow breath. "Girl, this is war." I laughed, but there was no joy in it. "Yeah, well, it's a quiet one." That's when she brought in Tasha, her older sister, a corporate lawyer, sharp, direct, no sugarcoating. We met for coffee. I gave her a rough outline of what had happened, and she didn't flinch once. After I finished, she leaned back and said, "You're not crazy. This is textbook manipulation. It's emotional erasure." I stared at her. "Is that even a thing?" She nodded. "It is now." Then she asked something no one had ever asked me before. "What do you want, Rachel? Do you want to confront them, or do you want to unravel them?" I didn't answer right away. Because the truth needed a moment to rise to the surface. Then I said it. Softly. Clearly. "I want them to feel what it's like to be erased." Marcus called the next day. He's Daniel's younger brother. Quiet, observant, kind, in a way that doesn't ask for attention. He said, "I didn't realize you weren't invited until I got there. I thought maybe you were running late." There was a pause. Then he added, "I saw Daniel's face when people asked where you were. He didn't have an answer. That meant more than he knew." I thanked him, not for the sympathy, but for noticing. That night, I stood in our kitchen, staring at the empty wine rack. We had offered to handle the dinner wine orders weeks before. Barbara insisted she wanted something special and asked us to place the order under our account. I had forgotten, but now I remembered, and quietly, calmly, I logged in. And canceled the delivery. No wine, no replacements, just a payment failed notice. 2 days before the event. I didn't tell Daniel. Not yet. I wanted the silence to speak first, because this wasn't revenge through yelling or slamming doors. This wasn't some scene in a soap opera. This was strategy, and every move I made now had purpose. No emotion, no second guessing. They've made it a habit to forget me, to push me out, erase my place, revise my presence. So I'll make it. Impossible to forget what comes next. Let them raise their glasses to a celebration I dismantled, without ever raising my voice. Some people fight fire with fire. I fought with silence, with precision. With the kind of cold control that made even guilt feel warm in comparison, because this time, I wasn't just left out, I was made invisible. So I decided to return the favor. Not with rage, but with absence. It started with a cup of coffee and a calm voice. Cassie and I sat in her living room, the sunlight spilling across her hardwood floors. She leaned forward, elbows on knees, watching me like I was a ticking clock. "So," she said, "you ready to light the match?" I nodded once. "It won't be a fire. It'll be a shadow." The idea came to me the night I canceled the wine. Order. It felt good, clean. Like pulling a single thread in a tapestry, knowing the whole thing would eventually come undone. But this wasn't just about disrupting plans. It was about mirroring. If they could make me feel like I didn't exist, then I'd show them how it feels to plan something, only to realize it was built on air. I started by calling Jillian, the restaurant manager at a private dining venue just outside town. Classy, expensive. Barbara's kind of place. Jillian was kind, professional, and more than willing to help. Told her I was hosting a surprise makeup dinner for my mother-in-law, that I wanted it intimate, elegant, memorable. She loved the concept. Even offered me their premium private room, fireplace, floral centerpieces, the works. "I'll send over the custom menu options," she said. "We'll take care of everything." And she did. Menus, seating charts, even place cards. Every single detail, perfectly arranged for something that would never happen. Tasha, Cassie's sister, handled the legal side. She asked me straight up, "You're sure you want to go through with this?" I nodded. No damage, no fraud, no harm. Just a message. She reviewed every step. "You're not liable," she confirmed. "As long as you're the one making the booking, the deposit's yours to lose. Just be sure the cancellation happens before they arrive." I already had the date marked in red on my calendar, 48 hours in advance. No mistakes. Daniel. Didn't question any of it. He thought I was turning a new leaf. I told him, "I want to make peace, a fresh start. I think your mom deserves a dinner done right." He smiled, genuinely relieved. "Rachel, that means a lot. Thank you." And I smiled back, because he had no idea what kind of peace I was preparing. Marcus caught me by surprise at the grocery store. He looked nervous, apologetic in that quiet way people are when they know they should have spoken up, but didn't. He pulled me aside near the produce aisle, said, "I heard about the dinner you're planning." I just nodded. "Yeah." He hesitated, then added, "I noticed before, when you weren't invited. I didn't say anything. That was my mistake." I didn't hold it against him. Not really, because noticing matters, and admitting it matters more. I thanked him, then walked away with a quiet sense of confirmation. Not everyone in that family was blind. Some just didn't know what they were looking at. And 2 weeks before the big night, I sent out formal invites, digital cards. Elegant script, black and gold theme, classy enough that no one questioned it, Barbara gushed. "I always knew you had event planning in you," she told Daniel. Daniel looked at me, pride softening his face. "She's amazing when she puts her mind to something." Barbara even texted me personally, just 2 words, "Thank you." I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without replying. Cassie and I handled the redirection plan like it was military strategy. The real venue, canceled quietly, 2 days before. Jillian understood. "Are you sure?" she asked. I said, "Yes. Something came up. Please hold on to the deposit." She replied, "We'll take care of it. No worries." Then I created a decoy invite. Same design, same time, different address, a local event hall that had been closed for renovations, no lights, no staff, just a locked glass door. The day before, the dinner, I prepped the final piece, a small white box. Inside, I placed a printed copy of the original guest list I found on Daniel's laptop. Our names missing, circled in red. A family photo from last Thanksgiving. But I edited it, photoshopped Lily and me out. Not blurred, not scribbled, just removed. Like we were never there. No note, no explanation. Just the artifacts of absence. I sealed the box, wrapped it in silver paper, and tied it with black ribbon. Left it at the hostess table of the decoy hall, marked with Barbara's name. It was the only thing waiting for them. The next day, I didn't check my phone, didn't look for texts or missed calls. I took Lily out for ice cream. We sat in the park, watching the ducks, laughing, at peace, and while they stood outside a locked hall, confused, overdressed, whispers, beginning to rise. I was breathing, for the first time in a long time, really breathing. Around 7:42 p.m., Cassie texted, "It's chaos. Barbara's pacing. Daniel looks like he got slapped. Lindsay's complaining about her heels." Another message followed. "Marcus just saw the box. He's holding it like it's radioactive." I didn't reply. Didn't need to. The message had already been delivered. Later that night, Daniel came home. I was folding laundry like nothing had happened. He stood there for a second, silent. Then he asked, "Did you cancel the dinner?" I didn't look up. Just kept folding. "Why would I do that?" I said. He stared at me, searching for something. Then he whispered, "Mom was crying." I finally met his eyes and said, "So was I, for years." He didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Because, for once, the silence belonged to me. The next day, Emily, Barbara's older sister, called. We hadn't spoken in months. She left a voicemail. Her voice was quiet but sharp. She said, "I saw the photo. I saw the list. I saw what you did." Pause. Would have done the same thing. Then she hung up. Mr. Reynolds, our neighbor, caught me watering the plants later that evening. He chuckled and said, "I heard Barbara's birthday dinner didn't go as planned." I smiled. Maybe the venue had plumbing issues. He winked. Maybe the truth finally got some fresh air. And that was it. No screaming, no confrontation, no dramatic fallout, just silence. And the unsettling realization that the woman they'd erased had erased them back, not out of hate, not out of anger, but to remind them what it feels like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be replaced with nothing, and sometimes nothing is the loudest thing you can leave behind. Sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom or a crowd. Sometimes justice walks in quietly, uninvited, and lets the truth do the talking. I wasn't there, not at the dinner that wasn't, not when the guests pulled up to a locked event hall, not when they stood outside in heels and dress shoes, holding glittery cards and wine bottles. Not when Barbara's smile began to fade, minute by minute, into something much harder to manage. Emily was the first to find the box. She's sharp, not the type to ignore writing on the wall or on a photo. She picked it up from the hostess, scanned, looked around, then handed it to Barbara. I wish I could have seen her face. Cassie said it was the kind of expression people only make when their whole world tilts sideways. Barbara untied the ribbon, opened the box, and saw it. The guest list, our names, missing, circled in red, and beside it, a family photo, but I was gone. Lily was gone. like we'd never existed at all. Cassie told me later that Barbara stood there for a full minute, frozen, everyone staring. She said no one moved. It was like they were waiting for a speech, but she couldn't speak. Emily didn't say a word either, just looked at her sister and shook her head, then walked away. Daniel came home just after 10. His shoes were muddy, his tie crooked, his silence louder than anything I'd ever heard from him. He stood at the doorway for a long time before he finally asked, "Did you do this?" I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice, just walked to the drawer, took out the printed guest list, and handed it to him. He looked down, and I watched the realization hit. "They left you off on purpose," he said softly, almost to himself. I nodded. "You needed to see it. From them. Not from me?" There was nothing else to say, so I said one thing. "Now you know how it feels. To be left out with intention." He sat down, and for the first time since I'd known him, Daniel had no defense, no denial, no explanation. Just silence. Marcus called the next morning. He said, "You didn't need to show up, Rachel. You already owned the room." Then he added, "I spoke up. I said your name. I told them I should have said something a long time ago. And for once, that felt like enough." Janine messaged me later that evening. Just one line. "They talked about you. But tonight, you made them talk about themselves. Barbara never reached out. Not once. And that's fine, because the message wasn't meant to start a conversation. It was meant to end one. Peace doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in whispers, in the soft clink of a coffee mug on a quiet morning, in the stillness of not needing to be seen to feel whole. A week after the dinner, Barbara sent flowers, white lilies, no card, no call, just a vase full of silence. I left them on the porch, not out of bitterness, but because I didn't need her apology to feel okay. Daniel asked if I'd go with him to therapy. He didn't say, "I'm sorry," outright. But his eyes did, his voice did, and maybe not all bridges need to burn to teach people what smoke feels like. Cassie called it poetic revenge. But to me, it was something else. It was closure. Not just from them, but from the version of me that kept asking for space in a room that was never mine. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than screaming ever could, and healing doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it just looks like leaving things behind, intact, but unreachable. Revenge isn't about hurting back. It's about reminding them who you were, when they thought you didn't matter.